Kimberly, where's the buzz?
Hey, Kimberly, where is the
Hi.
buzz?
Everywhere.
It's
How are you
right
doing
here on this
today?
show. I'll tell you, it's right here on the morning show.
Yes, yes. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good, 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 good. There's a lot of changes this season that are implied everywhere in the show, just from COVID to Black Lives Matter. How would you describe the challenge that we see this season and how it changes everything going forward?
How would I describe it? I think it's an evolution of the storytelling from season two. For Mia specifically, we've seen her go from a producer on the morning show grappling with the aftermath of this workplace relationship to having been promoted to the executive producer job at the morning show. And so in that light, we try to track her emotional and character arc as she leads the morning show through probably one of the most challenging transitions that it has ever been through, um, through the filter of race politics and gender politics. And I think it's a great way to to have a conversation with the audience about what that looks like for them. And one of the things I love about working on the morning show is we're not feeding you information on or making efforts to educate you on certain things, but we're asking you to ask yourself questions about what you
Mhm.
think about things. I think that's a much more authentic way of creating a story.
Yeah, sure, sure. As a Black woman, we face challenges in the workplace, and just trying to make it to the top, as we see with Mia, trying to, be the producer, and then moving from, she was with Mitch to Alex now, and them everyone leaving. How are you able to transfer that experience on screen to where it's times many people that are Black women may face the same challenges we see in the real world?
I think what's interesting about the characters that I play is they're almost always in diverse spaces, and that's important to me. As an actor, I seek out opportunities where uh, I'm not in a homogenous, like-minded environment. I want to work with a lot of different creatives, a lot of different collaborators from different backgrounds, and so I feel that representation for Black female characters is important, as I know I embody that. But what is the most important aspect of it for me is to tell a great story with great collaborators. And I think the rest of the story will tell itself. So I don't worry about necessarily, reflecting the experience of Black women, because when I come on camera, you can't miss it, right? It's right there. So
Yeah.
so I really work on trying to be truthful and authentic and clear and fire my imagination in the direction of my great writers and collaborators.
Okay. Last season, we saw Daniel have a sense of loyalty to TMS, despite his offer with Your Day America. How has your character evolved since the last time we saw him with all the changes that are happening at TMS now?
Yeah, I think this season we find Daniel in a more vulnerable place, right? He did decide to stay, and I think that that's something that he, sort of like we grow in that relationship in season two, and also, I think that I brilliantly, or however Carrie did it. For me, it was particularly exciting to portray Daniel this season because Daniel is in a state of reflection and he's in a state of assessment. And I could really relate that as a Black man in America. I feel like for a lot of Black people, we've been in a state of reassessing and just really sort of coming to a different understanding of our relationship to power in this country, in our workplaces, as we fight to be seen, as we fight for equality. And so I think we really what happened to last season puts Daniel in a very that vulnerable place that makes it a very worthwhile journey for us to view this season. I hope people get to see some notes of their own lives and how they function in the workplace, because it definitely reflected within me.
Yes, for sure. Because we do have topics, like you said, Black Lives Matter and different issues that are being discussed in the show. were you open with the writers on, your input of, which direction you want your character to reflect on the show with that issues?
Well, I don't get to decide. I don't get to decide nothing. But I will say that I felt like we had a really cool collaborative relationship with Carrie. Carrie would send pages ahead of time and saying, this is what we feel. And she would ask questions like, does that feel authentic to you? Does that?
Mhm.
And some things shifted and changed. And so it was really glorious to have such an amazing collaborator in Carrie and the visionary that she is, because the pages did change. And I hope that people, really see that and experience that, so that it really feels like we are telling a story with a, very sort of personal and specific reflection of what it is to be a Black person functioning and working in a white space.
Last season we saw Claire decide to end her relationship with Yanko after bringing the relationship forward with HR and just her talk with Hannah. Going into this new season, how is their relationship? Are they friends? Are there a little bit of awkwardness between the two?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think, when we start season two, Claire's left town. I think she's in England at that point. So he doesn't know much about her. He's lost touch with her. I think they were friendly. They tried to make that work. It became too awkward. So he bumps into one of her friends, and tries to find out what he can from her. But clearly Claire seems to have moved on, from Yanko, which only just breaks his heart even more so. So kind of hard. Yanko's having a tough go at it yet again, as he did in season one, and it gets even worse as the season progresses when he gets embroiled in this cancel culture mess.
Mhm. With the success of the first season, why do you think the morning show resonates with so many people?
I think my guess is that it tackles issues in a way where it explores every sort of point of view on an issue, and Me Too was so prominent in season one, the movement of Me Too, and how the writers tried to present all points of view with respect to different, aspects of Me Too, whether it was with Mitch Kessler, whether it was with my character and other characters. I love how the writers did that, where people could identify their own point of view in any one of the different characters, and I think that's what spoke to people and spoke and sparked controversy. To be fair, I mean, people would argue about, why he or she has been painted in a positive light and they shouldn't be, and it's like, well, no, they're trying to make a point that you're trying to understand, not necessarily excuse. And I love that about the show, is that it's unafraid, and it's bold, and it does the same thing in season two.
Because reading the script, were you ever surprised with something in season two that you feel like will shock the fans or just shocked you in general?
Yeah, no, there's no question, and that's why the writing is also so good, is you don't see it coming. There's definitely great twists, obviously I can't give them away. Great twists in the season, and things evolved. Sometimes you start shooting a season and story points change, and that's why it's a sort of it's a living document. That the scripts are living documents, because some things work better than others, and writers start writing to them, and also they just come up with different, twists and turns even along the way, even in their sort of bigger master plan. I mean, the entire second season had to be reconceived when COVID hit. We were shut down for 9 months. So even in those 9 months, Carrie, Aaron, and all the writers completely reconceived the show, because they couldn't avoid, obviously, dealing with COVID, seeing it being such a topical show. So things shifted, and we were as surprised as everybody, and hopefully the viewers, I'm sure they will be surprised at many turns.
Were there any characters that you got to interact this season that you didn't get to interact last season?
Absolutely. I'd never worked with Greta Lee, who plays Stella Bak, and she's tremendous in that role, and she's becomes sort of my nemesis for the season, and I love that. I love getting to work with her and feeling so misunderstood by her. It was a lot of fun.
So I felt like it was like a big twist at the end. Like we saw so much happening. Entering this season, how much of the world do we see reflected in this show?
Well, if last year was about the fallout and the repercussions of the Me Too movement, this season's about identity. It's about race, sexuality, and we touch on cancel culture. And of course, COVID happened. And so COVID really informed us as to the story we needed to tell, and how it affected all our characters. And, you know, our show, I don't know if you've seen it, the new stuff, the new shows, but, you know, we felt we had to reflect and look in the mirror at what was happening in the world. So we decided to show the first 3 months leading up to the tsunami that was about to hit us, because we knew it. We lived through it. And I think in our season, everyone's asking, am I a good person? They're going through a lot of self-examination and reflections, guilt, fear, and self-preservation.
Were you insistent on having your writers or even the cast make suggestions or have certain inputs into different topics that were explored?
I think, you know, Carrie and the writers and, you know, us as exec producers, you know, talked about what the season should be. And, you know, Carrie Aaron came up with this great idea to begin the season 3 months before COVID hits.
How much do you feel is reflected throughout the morning show that you feel that the audience will relate to? Not just issues that like with COVID or just general ideas that may be happening in the world.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's doing a lot of self-reflection since COVID hit, you know, are looking at, you know, what's important in our lives, you know, what, you know, our show is a morning show, right? So we're dealing with these characters that live a life in front of the camera and then behind the camera. And so I think our characters are looking in the mirror and looking inside as to, you know, who am I? Am I a good person? And I think, you know, we deal, like I said, with a lot of self-examination, guilt, regret, fear. So I think our audience will relate to a lot of the things we are talking about because they're feeling them too.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
You too.
Where is the buzz?
Where is the buzz? You said
used to be a
was
singer.
mine, oh mine.
Where is the buzz?
Ooh.